Originally released in 2014, Hyrule Warriors was, at its time, a really bold crossover combining the gameplay of the Dynasty Warriors franchise with the characters and motifs and locales of the Zelda franchise. Since then, it has seen 2 more ports, with the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition for Switch being lauded as the most complete package. But how does this complete package of Zelda fan service fare? Find out in this review. Before you do, however, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications every time I upload, leave a like, and comment suggestions on how to improve my content, as I really appreciate that. I love you guys, let's get into it. The story campaign Legend Mode starts out with a similar premise to traditional Zelda, obviously, apart from the gameplay. There's a new set of villains who threaten the peace in Hyrule, and Link and Zelda must stop them. I've just gotta say, as a side note, these new and old characters' incarnations are among some of my favorite in the series. They all just look so badass, I love it. The timeline merge that occurs here is where things start to get interesting. There's 3 Zelda games worth of characters and locations being dragged into this Infinity War style crossover, and it's huge. It's just huge. There's no other word for it, really. Because throwing Zelda lore out the window, but also being semi-canon makes this game so diverse and exciting in the sense of tone. It's amazing. Over several levels, conflict plays out, and you do wrap up with, a fight against Ganon. I mean, it's technically a Zelda game. Duh. The Ganon fight is awesome, but it does feel a tad familiar for anyone who's played Zelda. All in all though, this original base campaign is a great introduction / jumping off point for various side stories and other modes in the game. Cia's tale runs parallel to this and tells her story of rounding up series baddies to fight with Link and pals. This is an awesome, slightly more difficult campaign that you'll want to level your baddies up for in preparation of this. Linkle's Tale, on the other hand, is a personal favorite which tells the story of a young girl who believes that she is the legendary hero. All in all, this story amounts to a drop in the pond, but it's just so fulfilling to see her character arc and her growth in a less fate of the world type of way as is tradition with Zelda. It's refreshing. There's also an epilogue featuring Ganondorf's return, which is again more difficult and feels incredibly frantic to play. Playing as Ganondorf, man, it just feels so right. Now there's also the Wind Waker levels, which serve as sort of a new story following on from this epilogue. I know, it's very confusing, stick with me. These essentially force you to use the new character switching mechanic added in the 3DS to take advantage of everything from that version onwards. The finale level of this campaign is the ultimate test of skills that you've acquired in Legends mode as far as switching characters and strategizing. These levels really help just close out the whole experience with a bang, and that's really neat. The only issue I can really find with Legend mode would have to be the checkpoint system. Sometimes it's honestly just useless because they are placed at times where you can't fix your past errors in the game or, reach a more advantageous point of the map in time. It's a bit silly. Something which really helps to pad out this main experience would be Adventure Mode. Adventure Mode offers ways to improve your strength to tackle the main game going forward. There's huge maps, and there's so many of them, and they all have their own mechanics centered around various Zelda games. You can pretty much just scour these for secrets to your heart's content because there's so many exciting unlocks here that definitely make it worth it. The item card shop is such a no-brainer that I had to double check that it was actually a new addition before I even wrote this. Even with this, however, your rupees are still sucked up by having to buy compasses to find the sparkling areas on the map with treasure. All in all, it's a well-paced and great mode that adds hundreds of hours to a die-hard Zelda fans' experience. As far as other modes, there's Challenge Mode, which is the most difficult and probably better to get into late game, if you ask me. Now, the 3 different sub-modes here are all enjoyable enough, with a personal favorite being Ganon's Fury. Being able to take out hordes of enemies as a hulking Ganon and battle giant bosses feels like some kind of kaiju take on Zelda. I love it. It's just so much dumb fun and it's great. It's so over the top. Now, as far as My Fairy, I'd hesitate to even call that a mode, but here we go. It basically allows you to feed and clothe the fairies that you find around the map in Adventure Mode, with food and clothing that you find also around Adventure Mode. It also really benefits you to level it up, and it gives it extra perks when you use it. There's a whole system with personality traits, elements, and stats here for people who care for that sort of thing. Not my cup of tea, but I can see why people would be into that. But these fairies still can be an absolute asset and will help you take on a bevy of challenging hordes with ease. The gameplay is easy to grasp, but it still rewards you for being able to master combos, rolls, targets, gauges, and the like. Fighting more enemies for rare materials has a risk-reward element. You may ruin the overall mission by ditching the main quest for too long, but it's kinda worth it in pursuit of something that you really need to get the next upgrade for your character. Take that as you will, I find it really awesome. One minor but constant gripe is how enemies take forever to leave the battlefield, sometimes after a solid 30 seconds of dialogue. Waiting to pick up their materials takes precious gameplay time and doesn't even feel satisfying. It's really jagged and I wish that they had smoothed that out. I kinda wish that you could have automatically picked up these fallen materials similar to rupees, which would have saved so much time. The new switching between and commanding allies mechanic is also super welcome, and it helps you cover so much more ground than you could with just one character. The item select sometimes changed characters for me, however, and this was really frustrating, especially in the heat of battle when it's getting really frantic. It's just overwhelming and annoying. Now, there's also co-op in this game, though you may not know it because it's incredibly well hidden for apparently no reason, which is definitely points off for that one. But the co-op is insanely overpowered in the best way possible. It's ridiculous. You can take out bosses in no time with that. Now, obviously, this game has a massive emphasis on grinding. The materials, sculptures, upgrades, and such make this a completionist treasure trove or nightmare depending on how you look at it. Retaining levels from failed missions is great and means nothing is truly a waste of time. It's overall amazing for people looking for an in-depth single-player experience that is more than rich in content, like Jeff Bezos. Disgustingly rich in content. Speaking of content, the Bazaar offers you a lot of upgrades and is super easy and intuitive to use. You got the Training Dojo, which is a lifesaver for bringing lower level warriors up to speed with the others. You have the Badge Market, which is just so satisfying for unlocking some really helpful perks for your warriors and putting your materials to use. It's also worth mentioning that the earlier, more necessary badges are never too expensive to get, which I'm grateful for. Although an automatic fill option might have helped speed up this whole creation process because it does occasionally get really boring and tedious. The Apothecary is a great way to use up large sums of common materials to create handy boosts to various stats and such. I also love that it doesn't ask for specific materials, but instead a number and a mineral tier, being bronze, silver, or gold. Meanwhile, the Smithy lets you sell and fuse various weapons in order to create weapons that have all kinds of effects, from stronger attacks to increasing the chance of a rare material drop. Love it. The score of this game puts kind of a metal spin on classic Zelda themes, and it's really welcome. It's bizarre, but it somehow works. And the menu presentation is incredibly clean, incredibly easy to get around, so appreciate that. The 3D animated cutscenes in Legends mode. Oh my god, they are fucking gorgeous. They're super high quality and they're just a joy to watch, and they really bring the characters to life. The only issue with these is that I wish that they had voice acting because the mouths literally move and this feels almost like a missed opportunity. There's also the storybook cutscenes that play out in certain load screens. These are just really cute and add a little bit of stylization. I love them. It's also lucky that they do because load times here are still something of a drag. The battlefield also can look incredibly muddy and drab along with the models for most of the grunt enemies, and the main presentation issue here would have to be handheld mode. It's just appalling. There's so many frame rate issues. It's disgusting. I don't know how this can be advertised as handheld, which it's shocking to me. The map is also a little small for my liking personally, and there is seemingly no setting to make it appear larger. I mean, I get that it's a mini map, but I think they took that just a little too literally. There's also these worse animated cutscenes that clearly use game models rather than the super polished CGI ones. They're not bad by any means, but I kind of wish that they'd bothered to actually replace the characters in these based on the character that you play as in free mode or in multiplayer. Because think about it, seeing something like, I don't know, Proxy going into Ganondorf and meeting Ganondorf would just be hilarious and wacky. All in all though, this is a massive love letter to Zelda lore and the fandom. It's got a great main campaign and side modes with a varying degree of presentation quality. There's a lot of nuance and exciting content to dive into in this gigantic game, although the game really does just struggle to run at times. Still, it's the best version of this game to ever exist and definitely worth playing. I'd have to give this game a 5.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you bloody loved it. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications every time I upload. Leave a like and comment any suggestions on how to improve this content, because boy do I want to do that. It's amazing. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one.